Hi and welcome to Out and About with the Outlaw Bookseller. It's been a while since we've been on a walk, so I thought it was time for a walk. It's Easter Sunday, it's a beautiful day, and I'm going to show you Charmy Down, which is an old, now disused World War II airfield up above Bath. I haven't shown you the first part of the ascent, because it is an ascent, because you've seen it before in a previous video. I'll put the link below, and I'm just going to show you where we're going. Now this is Ramscombe Lane, but we're going to walk further. Okay, here's the steep ascent ahead. I'm not going to film much of this and talk because I'll be out of breath within seconds, but we'll see. Okay, so that's all very Mythago wood. If you don't know what Mythago wood is, watch my Robert Holdstock video on the folk horror season, he said laughingly. Beautiful day today, because it's Easter Sunday. Nobody's out at this end of the woods, which is fantastic. Wasp stripes on this barrier. We do like wasp stripes. Well, there's no black and yellow, it's white and yellow, but it's the same ballpark. Right, I'm feeling quite martial now, after that enervating walk. Is that the correct use of the term? I think it means something else. Chelsea Quinn Yarbrough always uses enervating, and I think it means the opposite of what I just used it for, so sorry Chelsea. Okay, so we're getting there now, and the first time I came I took a left through that field because there's a public footpath sign, and that led me completely off track, and I had to do some fence clambering, so never again. Okay, just had a shut that gate moment, as they say in Withnail and I. Being a young man who grew up in the country, I'm used to gates. But God, that one was hard, especially with a selfie stick in the other hand. So yeah, we're on the plateau now. I do like a plateau. Of course, I first learned the word plateau in The Lost World, which was the first adult book I ever bought, first adult paperback I bought. In 1970, still in the old money, John Murray, still got it. First science fiction novel I ever read as well. And here we are, and you can see some buildings ahead of us. So as you see, a Ballardian structure behind me with the ubiquitous graffiti. Graffiti makes things less Ballardian, I think. I guess it's a little bit more cyberpunk, but you know, it just doesn't have the minimalism of Ballard. Time to burn. Maybe it's the Wicker Man in progress. So as you see, there's the remnants of a road here, and I have actually walked down that way. So yeah, so this was the part of the road to the airfield, still partially extant. We'll just go and have a look at these buildings. Just an outdoor channel update while we're at it. A lot of science fiction content recently, I know. Thanks to everybody who subscribed from the science fiction readership community. Thanks to everybody who watched my recent Stranglers video celebrating 45 years of Ratus Novedicus. And I just felt it was time to get outside a bit. And there's more outdoor stuff coming up. And there'll be more SF content. And there's going to be some film stuff coming up about David Cronenberg as well. I do like this. It's rather cyclopean, I have to say. And the way the trees have grown against it, the advance of time, nature reclaiming the land. That's what we like to see. Some of this is private farmland, but it's impossible to tell which bits are and which bits aren't. The first time I came up here, I strayed too close to some of the old buildings, and chap appeared on a quad bike and asked me what I was doing. I told him I was a writer, and I said I didn't realise it was private land, so I scooted off that bit. But you know what it's like. There's that book about trespass. You got in the country, and I'm from the country, as I say, but basically nothing is clearly delineated. And of course there's lots of examples where people don't want you on the land even though there's a public footpath. So if you know there's a public footpath and you don't use it, make sure you do. What was it Conan the Barbarian said? By Crom, these egresses were built for dwarves and children. I'm afraid the video where he was giggling behind me about my quoting of classic sword and sorcery. You don't get that from Brandon Sanderson or David Eddings. Yeah, right in the eye of the sun, as I say, but it's great, isn't it? Some sort of tower in the background, radio or TV or whatever. Of course, in my mind, it's one of the towers in the Strugatsky brothers' Prisoners of Power, which affects the mutants. If you've not read Prisoners of Power, you should. It's been reissued now, retranslated as The Inhabited Island. It's the first of a tetralogy. And I kind of sum it up by describing it as Flash Gordon meets 1984. Seriously, it's really, really good. And of course, I'm thinking about the Strugatskys because this is like very stalkerish territory, isn't it? You know, sort of territory that Tarkovsky would film 3 hours in, you know, and put all sorts of gnomic utterances about the meaning of life. Show the interior. Yeah, fantastic, isn't it? What is it about these ruined spaces? We love them. Okay, well, as John Cale once sang, you've got the style it takes. Lol. Yeah, there's a film of Prisoners of Power, aka The Inhabited Island, and it's called Dark Planet, and it's Russian. It's very strange, rather like the book itself. Some of it is hard to take seriously. It's 1980s sort of hairstyles and over the top Fifth Element type costumes, but it's a very straight, very sort of serious theme as well, so it's a very unusual book. And the Strugatskys of course said that they approved the casting of the central character Maxim, who's like this blonde, perfectly sort of engineered human being, you know, from a future communist state who's just perfectly zooms around the galaxy. And as I say, it's very Flash Gordon, but it also has serious Orwellian stuff in it as well. It's a real mishmash, but it's a fantastic book, and it's a Gollancz masterwork. It looks like this. Okay, saying farewell now to the room of secrets where everything is possible, as in the Tarkovsky film, or maybe not. There's the path that we came along, receding behind us into infinity. Not quite a trough. I do like an abandoned trough in a landscape, but I guess that'll have to do for today. Of course, a while ago I had my hauntology phase, which is still lingering, and we'll go back to it at some point. And this road reminds me of a haunted road in a Nigel Neal play called The Road, which was filmed, I think, way back in the early 60s. The BBC wiped the tapes. None of us have ever seen it as a result, unless you saw it at the time. And it's set, I think, in the 16th or 17th century, and there's a haunted forest and people hear all sorts of strange noises in it. And eventually the protagonists discover that it's a haunting from the future, and the sounds are from a motorway all jammed up with cars and people, as the populace of a future city try to flee an impending nuclear attack. Now, why isn't the BBC refilming that? But if they do, let's hope Mark Gatiss isn't involved. Wow, what's this? If it was solid, or I'd rather had solid sides, I'd say it was that bit, like the collar or cuff between this separation stages of a Saturn V rocket. You can tell what Airfix kits I was on in my youth, can't you? And as you see, there's some shed-like structures. First time I came up here, I took a wander amongst these. It was a very grey day and there were hares boxing each other and they were huge. It was fantastic. We all go in there because we don't disturb the cows and they'll probably run at us and go ape bonkers. But there you go. They're enjoying themselves. These fence posts, you know. Again, it's all very Ballardian. Mind you, everything is with me. So why does a cow stop? Because it wants to be on YouTube. Ooh. We're going to traverse the perimeter. Now, of course, not too far away from here, about 6-7 miles, is Corsham, RAF Rudlow Manor, with this massive underground complex, and of course that's where they keep the little green med, according to you know, Tim Good and Nick Pope and these sort of people. Well, that's the stories they've heard. Never seen any myself, but there you go. If you're in a speculative mood and you fancy that sort of guilty pleasure, the thing you're not supposed to write about in science fiction, flying saucers, yeah, of course people do. Ken MacLeod's science fiction flying saucer story, The Human Factor, is fantastic. Yeah, you could read that, or you could read mine, which is in Deep Ends 2019. It's about 12,000 words long. It's called Saucer Occupant, and it's fun and it's very naughty. And Deep Ends, of course, is a Ballardian anthology. And ahead of you where those trees are, that's where the airfield was. As I say, no drone, I'm afraid, but here we are up on the plateau. And I say I've not done the research, but I'll put some captions in so you know what all these things are. During one of the lockdowns a couple of years ago, I think it was, yeah, it must have been the first one. Yeah, it was the first one. I think it was towards the end of the first one. There was a rave up here and it got reported on the national news, and it went on from about 11 o'clock on Saturday night until about 3 o'clock the following afternoon. Didn't get much sleep. It was really noisy. You know, it was a bit sort of bar humbug because the pandemic was on and stuff. But, you know, you look at the space and you can understand why they came up here. It is what it is. Now, herself has offered to video me as I get electrocuted by this fence, which of course is really helpful. But unfortunately, I'm not up for that today. Maybe when we enter the game for a laugh phase later in the channel's history. So this is the actual airfield. In aerial shots, if we had a drone, you know, you can still see some of the crisscrossing of the actual landing strips, but you can't at the ground level. The Battle of Britain was 1940, I'm sure, and obviously that was pivotal because at that point Britain was the only country actively opposing the Axis in Europe, and things could have gone another way. We could have been in the Iron Dream, you know, we could have been in the Man in the High Castle. It could all have gone very, very differently. So you have to admire those guys and all the support they had behind them. I find the whole Battle of Britain thing very moving, actually, because when I was researching my book 100 Must-Read Books for Men, I included a book called Fighter Boys by a guy called Patrick Bishop, and I had to contact him to get his date of birth, and because I used to put that in with all the entries, and I couldn't actually read much of the book because it was so moving. Some of the stories, the personal stories of the airmen who died, and there was one particularly poignant story of a radio operator, a lady, and her boyfriend or fiance maybe was a pilot, and they were on the radio to each other as he was, you know, being shot down. It was really heartrending, and I choke up even now. I was selling a book to somebody the other day in a bookshop in Wells. I was just there filling in, and I was talking to a lady, and I nearly started crying. It was just really quite something. It's just such an amazing story. So we have them to thank for our freedom. I found a trough. As I say, I love troughs. I don't know what it is about them. This one is rather overgrown with Aldous hothouse type vegetation of the aquatic variety. Algae. Don't you just love it? I do love the mythic resonance of a trough. Okay, so a bit of trough spotting really makes my day. Maybe this is how the video will end, who can say? And we're leaving Charmy Down. I've never actually done this bit before. Walking down will come up above Swainswick, I guess. And I think most people come up this way, because I see them coming up this way with the dog. So we're going down. So there you go. There's a little out and about and some meaningless chit chat, lots of speculative references. And as I say, hopefully I'll have put some actually meaningful and factual points on the subtitles. We'll see, I guess. Okay, so we're kind of circumnavigating now, and that's Bath there in the distance. To the right, the structure you can see sticking up amongst the trees is Beckford's Tower, and there's a video about that and William Beckford. That's Lansdowne, and we're going to stroll along this nice country lane. Now, I've never actually been along here, but you know, that's the thing, isn't it? I mean, we've discovered a lot of these walks during lockdown and stuff, and because I grew up in the country, I've much wanted to be in the city a lot, but I find now I'm getting a bit older, I'm sort of returning to my sylvan roots.